I'm Brent Leary.
Paul Greenberg.
It's a Friday afternoon. It's the CRM Playaz, so excuse the intrusion. We're talking sports.
And let's assume the intrusion has been excused.
Thank you. Thank you
Yeah.
for the excuse or the intrusion or whatever. Just glad you're here. If you are here.
Yeah. Well, after last night's debacle with the Giants, I mean, I told you it was going to happen, right? I literally said, when you said, well, remember you said at one point while we were communicating during the game that, well, it looks like that should do it. And I said,
Yeah.
just wait. I said, and then I mentioned the secondary will screw it up, right? And sure enough, secondary,
they were awful.
They are always like that. We've had 4 years of losing games just like that, where we lead until the last second.
Brutal.
Oh,
and
well, I mean, that was
trying their best to just give it to you too.
I know they were awful. That I have to say, the one thing that will probably come out of this is I'm with you, Eric, on this one. I'm more like smash Tampa, though. Not so much let's go Dodgers. Since they happen to be the vehicle to smash Tampa, then let's go Dodgers. But with the thing with the Giants was the thing that's going to come out of this, I think we're going to literally see the worst division in the history of the NFL this year with the NFL East. That the division-winning team will be 6-10.
That's
maybe
that's
7-9.
That's not good at all.
Has it ever happened before where an NFL?
I think 7-9. Yeah, this is the one that really got me. What's his name? Daniel Jones. Oh my gosh. Yeah. This dude is only like in his second year. He's a young guy. He should be able to run 50 yards without falling.
You know what? That one didn't materially affect us that much because we did score, right? It was two plays later. So I don't care. But the one that did it was Ingram's drop. That the game was over if he caught that. The Lar is on. That's you, the Lar.
I love that. Good old spin.
I know. So yeah, Ingram's drop was so.
That was
awful.
terrible. I could have.
Oh my God. I probably couldn't have, but
I mean, that was Daniel Jones's best throw the whole night.
I know, it was perfect. Look, here's the funny thing. Like last year, when I was watching Jones after he finally replaced Eli, I think it was game 3 or 4 maybe. You could see he was a rookie, but you could say, he had some promise. You could see it. But he has promise as a running back, not as a quarterback, man. I mean, this guy, the two things I will give him is he is, as some announcers have said, he's completely fearless. But it's fearless to the point of brave and fearless to the point of stupid. Like he fumbles all the time because he's not paying attention, right? So because he's fearless, he's not worried about what's going to happen to him, right? So consequently, his what do they call it when you're aware, your awareness, I guess, but there's a name for it. I think the NFL uses when you're kind of your awareness. No, they actually have like a name for the tech. Like they technologically measure it, and it's sort of you're aware of your surroundings, but it's not awareness. It's something else.
I know what you're talking about.
That his awareness is 0, right? But you can see also when he's on, he's an insanely accurate passer. He's strong. He can actually throw distance if he wants to, but he doesn't do much of that. But he is such a like a dolt. I mean, he's gotten so much worse since season 1, and he's kept his worst problem, which is literally dropping the ball. He constantly did it. And this year, I still remember at least 3 drives. We got to great drives. We'd get to like the 4-yard line, and he'd throw an interception. He did it 3 times this year, and then he's fumbled. Look, I don't think we would have scored anyway, to be honest, but the last chance we had was that play, and it was him dropping it.
That was
and fumbling it away. Yeah,
that was brutal.
awful.
So I think I think I might have something that will cheer you up just a little bit.
All right.
Maybe just a little bit.
All
But
right.
and it's literally, this came literally like 15 minutes ago as a Facebook memory.
Okay.
So I'm going to show you this and you're going to immediately, I think, feel a little better. So here it is.
Oh, holy cow. Holy God, man. You found it.
No, this was this is literally a Facebook memory from, let me see how long this has to be at least 10 years ago.
It's before I lost weight, so it's at least 10 years. I lost weight 6-7 years ago.
Oh wow. You know what it says on Facebook?
No.
It says this picture right here, which is from 10 years ago today, is the very first picture that we were both tagged in it the same time.
Really?
That's what this is saying on Facebook.
Oh my God. This is literally one of the greatest moments in Playaz history right
But
here.
wait a minute. You know what's funny about this? People might be looking at this thinking, oh, this is a kind of caught us in mid-action. That's not what's happening here, folks. No. We are actually paused on purpose like that for the video that was shooting. This is like our very first CRM Playaz video shoot with like professional videography people and stuff like that.
Yeah, you can. Well, I'm sure. I hope they can guess that by the guy in the back behind us. That's not a picture. That's an actual person with an actual professional light. And there was another guy who, judging from this picture, I think he might have taken. I think I might have been. No, I wasn't holding the glass. Then you're holding the phone.
Yeah, that dude will come and take the phone eventually
out of your hand very soon. This is one of the great moments in the history of the Playaz. I'm telling you, we were doing, for those of you who have never watched Police Squad or any of the Leslie Nielsen movies with what was his name in the movies again?
You talk about Lieutenant Drebin, Frank Drebin?
Frank Drebin, with him is Frank Drebin.
And his boss, Ed.
Right, exactly. And this was us doing literally a freeze frame like that. And actually, thanks to the camera guy, the lighting guy was still doing what he was doing. The camera guy made this into arguably one of the funniest episodes we ever had, at least at the end. And I wish, and guess what? They are the lost video episodes.
I think there's one that's actually posted on YouTube. Because it was the one with Dean Halstead. Remember Dean?
Yeah, but it's not the full episode.
Well, you remember we did 3 episodes.
Right.
His was the first one. Yeah, I think it was like, well, I think what they did is it might have been like a 20-minute recording and they edited it down to like 10 or something like that. 10 or 12 minutes.
I'm typing it in now to see if we can find them.
I think I've got one. I've got the only one that seemed to have made its way on the.
There it is. 9 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. I'm going.
Wait a minute. Now that's funny. Wait a minute. That's kind of. I guess maybe they posted it after the fact because this picture is 10 years old.
Yeah. No, actually, on the date on the Playaz episode, it just said 9 years ago when I looked at it, but the date on the Playaz episode is 10 years ago.
Wow. You know what? We should try playing a little of that at some point. Maybe not today because we got a guest coming on soon.
Right, but I'm just trying to see if they had the freeze frame at the end. No.
Oh, look at that. Well, Sven is at the gym. All right.
Go Sven.
And yeah, well, we weren't drinking in the basement that day because we were working. It was serious work, as you can see.
If you look on the back shelf, though, you'll see bottles of Pappy Van Winkle, several of them. Several. Interestingly enough, I'm not joking. If you look on the video, I don't know if you can see it on this picture. Let me see. No, you can't. But if you look on the video, you see the shelf by my bar. There's a bottle on there of a rye called Rye, R-I. And guess what? I still have some of that bottle left.
Wow.
10 years later. It doesn't age, and actually the bottle of 46 sitting next to it, I still have some of that bottle left. A lot of the bottles on that shelf are not fully drunk yet, 10 years later.
Yeah, it's a shame. That's the only thing that we have from that full day of shooting. We shot at least 3 different shows on that.
Yeah, the Customer Collective.
Yeah, I don't even think that's not even, well, that wasn't around too much longer after that, but
yeah,
right. Yeah, no, we got that. I'm going to download the video because we can download that video, and then we will put this into the CRM Playaz group. So if you want to see the full video, that means you got to join the group. How about that? How about that for teasing?
And I'll carry it on the 56 group website on the Playaz page too, for the private community.
There it is. 10 years ago. That's amazing.
Unbelievable. We are amazing people.
We're amazingly old.
Yes, that's what I'm thinking too.
Oh, well, that's fun. So did that make you feel a little better?
Oh, yeah. Honestly, I didn't feel that bad about the Giants anyway because I'm so used to it. And it's not the Yankees to me. I love the Giants. Don't get me wrong. I do. But they have been a disgraceful team for years now, so it doesn't really matter. And with the Yankees, it's a little more – let's say this. My Yankees are your Rams, right? So there's more invested.
Yeah, that's true. But it's still – you were still pretty heated last night, though.
I was so pissed off at the way they did that. But I expected it too. I didn't. Let's put it this way: I didn't lose any sleep. I actually slept really well last night. So it's just the Giants are. It's sort of you come to a certain conclusion at a certain point that the Giants are pathetic, and they're going to stay pathetic. And you should go on Facebook and look at the Giants groups, which I'm a member of. Right? I mean, the big question that was asked by one of the Giant groups, one of the biggest ones, was just a big question: how did we lose that game? And then everybody, I will tell you this: an enormous number of people said Ingram, and some of them were so mad they would say 88. I can't say his name.
That's pretty. Yeah. Well, I mean, did the guy? Did he at least? Do people feel like he at least? Yeah, they're mad at him for now, but that's just temporary because he's a really good player.
No. Most of them said get rid of him now.
Are they ready to let him go? Wow.
They're ready to let him go, the coach go, the Maras to sell the team. They're literally ready to let everything go completely and start all over. I mean, just they're like that after every game, though.
Come on, can we just say that this Joe Judge? I mean, I still don't understand why they hired him. It doesn't make any sense to me why they hired this guy. Just because he came from the Pats and he was like a special teams coach or something like that. Bob,
yeah, that's what he was.
Something like that. This is like the equivalent of the Giants hiring Ray Handley.
Yeah, which is probably still the worst hire. Was Ray Handley.
From running back coach to head coach? Really?
Ray Handley was so awful. But I last night at halftime, Tony Gonzalez was on. It's the beginning of the game.
It was
Tony right in the beginning, and he was questioning Joe Judge's style before the game started. Right. So he was basically saying, well, I know he does this disciplinarian thing, but sometimes when you're in this situation, it's not a good thing to be a disciplinarian. You got to kind of relax people, right? And, I mean, I'm telling you, Judge might be the next one and done for the Giants.
Well, after coming on the heels of Pat Shurmur,
oh my God, he was so awful. But again,
and haven't had before Pat Shurmur. He was bad too. The guy,
he was awful. Oh my God, he was awful. With a B, can't even think of his name now. The guy who was post Coughlin and pre-Shermer. Coughlin was the last good coach we had.
Right.
And people really, when he was finally done, I felt awful. I wanted him to continue. I loved him as a coach. Even when he had good and bad years, you knew on the one hand, with Coughlin, when he first came, everyone was frightened to death of him, disciplinarian. Like, he was the guy they always said, well, Coach, you said you were supposed to come at 3:00, and I came at 3:00. I said, if I say come at 3:00, you should be here at 2:55. You're fine. Right. That's the kind of guy they used to call him, right? And then what happened, though, over the years was he softened somewhat because he listened to the players. The thing about Coughlin was terrific listener. He really did pay attention to what the players said. I wish he paid attention to what players said, but he paid attention to what the players said, and he changed. They changed, and by the time he was ousted, basically, he was pretty beloved by everybody. We all loved him, and the fans. You didn't see things that said get rid of Coughlin. Nobody said that.
No, I think he learned a lot after he got fired by Jacksonville. Remember, he took that team to the AFC Championship game and lost, but he was like a Captain Bligh kind of figure.
Yeah,
I mean, it was everything was you had to get his way or the highway. There was no giving any inches or nothing. But then he came to the Giants, and the Giants were like a veteran-laden team with with the
Strahan.
Michael Strahan and those guys, and they're like, look, we're not doing that.
And he listened.
And he finally listened, and he ended up getting 2 Super Bowls out of that. So
we can't argue this. Look, we weren't great, but we were great in moments that counted, right? And that's why we all loved him. Because the other thing is, by the time when he would do his in the beginning, when it was all Iron Tom kind of conversations with the press. By the end of it, you could see he just loved the team. He loved working with the players. Yeah.
He adapted, which was good to see. Now we got to address this thing here.
All right.
Every team wants to hire people from the Pats to try and understand the Patriots way and get some of the secrets. I ain't buying that.
What's their record now?
I don't know. I mean, this is a different kind of year, so I'm not even holding that against him. But look at if you look at the coaching tree for Belichick versus Walsh, it's not even a contest.
No.
I mean, how many of these guys have been hired, because of their Patriots lineage, and have done nothing? I mean, absolutely nothing. You go. What's the big dude that went to Notre Dame? Charlie something or other.
Flunk.
And then what's the guy? He has the funny name like Casanova, or what's the guy? Romeo Crennel. Crennel.
Oh my
He's
God,
been terrible. The guy that went to Denver for like 2 years or 1 year, and they fired him right away. He went back to the Patriots. Not McCown, whatever the guy's name. The young guy, he got fired and he went back. The guy that just got fired from the Houston Texans, he was with Belichick, but then he went to Penn State, and then he went to. I mean, they've been atrocious. They've been awful. Who in the right mind would want to hire any of these guys anymore? I have no idea.
Think of it this: do you know what the secret sauce of the Patriots is? Short sleeves and worm-eaten sweatshirts. That's the secret sauce. Short sleeves and worm-eaten sweatshirts. That's it. There's secrets, and then take illegal videos and get away with it. Right? Right. That's what Patriots. I mean, we see how great they are. I'm amazed you said you don't hold something against them at all. Right? I couldn't believe you said that. I know. I didn't actually hear that.
Anyway, no, I because this is going to shock Bob. This may shock some other folks out there.
Me.
We probably have to go to their guest.
Yeah.
I see him in the green room. I am a Cam Newton fan. So Cam being the quarterback in the Patriots
softens it.
Yeah. I'm not rooting against the Patriots like I would normally do so.
Well, because the other part of the secret sauce was that they had a total. He might have been a hell of a quarterback, but he was a complete asshole too. So, right. So he was not a good person and never has been. So, well, he's not. I mean, that's the sad part. He's really not a very nice guy. So that would kind of grates too. Belichick and Brady were just two people that grate on other people, right? So, and not denying Tom Brady's amazing talent and his longevity and ability to play the game at 40 and any of that. I am, let's say, denying that he has any goodness I could ever see.
I'm glad that he liked what I said. I'm glad Bob liked what I said, because that'll probably be the last time you ever hear anything remotely positive about the Patriots.
And by the way, that will be edited out of the post.
This will never to be seen again.
Another lost
let me just say, Bill Walsh, you look at his tree, his coaching tree. This is why, and see, Bob, this is getting back to my normal talking points. This is why Bill Walsh is the greatest coach ever of all time, and the other guy isn't. All right, so I just felt like I had to say that just to balance out the kind of pseudo niceness with the reals deal. All right, so with that all said, I'm going to turn it over to you because you have a personal relationship with our next guest. So let me bring him to the screen and turn it over to you.
There's the man.
Hey,
Lorenzo.
Is my mic working?
Yeah, you sound good.
Okay. Hey, I was in the training center, but it's so loud in there. I don't know if you'll pick up on some of that loud blaring rap music that's playing next door. But I do want you to get Brent to get a look at the facility though. So probably toward the end I'll walk out there. But thanks for having me on, guys.
All right. Well, you sit tight for a second while I tell people about you.
Okay.
So Lorenzo Aguilar is my personal trainer, but he's so much more than that. Aside from being an exceptionally nice and kind person and a remarkable personal trainer, he is also a trainer to a large number or a significant number of pro and collegiate athletes. And we'll get into that a little later. But the other thing Lorenzo does, which is amazing, and this is how I kind of met him through somebody that many of you who have participated in our Playaz happy hours and on this and have listened to broadcasts know, who's Steve LeMay. That's how I met him, right? And as everybody by now knows, if you don't, you will in a second. I've known Steve LeMay since my first hour at class in college, right, which is 53 years ago, right? So he was telling me one day about this amazing guy who's a personal trainer and took him from using a walking stick to running again at the level Steve runs, which is pretty significant for an old dude like us. And right back into doing even better than that. And let's say the walking stick is basically in the garbage or sitting on the floor somewhere. So he told me a little about him, and I started looking up some things. And Lorenzo is also, as it turns out, an expert in dealing with people who are seniors. And what that means, though, is not just like, okay, we're going to bulk you up, we're going to build up your strength, but it's also we're going to handle your balance, we're going to handle your agility, we're going to make sure that your entire system is kind of in your entire musculature and your muscles and bones are working in conjunction with each other, along with your nerves and tendons and neural synapses. I mean, you name it. But you work in harmony. And to just take you to one level further, when I had that pinched nerve, it only started healing when I talked to not when I talked to my doctor, but when I talked to Lorenzo about what to do. And since that moment, it's been healing consistently. Now it's fine, but in the course of that, of course, Lorenzo and I have had an opportunity because it's remote training. And by the way, I highly recommend if any of you are looking for someone, talk to this man. He was starting to tell me stories of things he did with pro athletes and collegiate athletes. And of course, he also posts a fair amount on Facebook. So you can see some of the actual work he does, which is fascinating. And it's somewhat different than what you would expect a trainer to do, even though it involves some of the things you do expect. So you're talking about if you look at him, you probably think he's like 22. I will say this. I once asked him, he's older, okay, but not 22, but he looks 22, right? So probably because he's so fit. So anyway, with that, hey, Lorenzo.
Hey, I started getting younger when I started getting Paul younger. So he was rubbing off on me, and Steve as well. Steve, I was talking about his stick. I called it the falling stick for a while because he had several falls while using it. So he's been able to get rid of that. And I actually saw him the other day. We're still under COVID protocols here. And he said, I'm walking around like a 25-year-old. And I said, well, you look like you're walking around like a 25-year-old. So I was able to assess his gait. We've been able to meet up at least every 2 weeks. But he's doing great. He makes me look good, and Paul makes me look good as well.
Well, so there's one question that's actually I've been thinking about is, okay, so on the one hand, you deal with people like me. On the other hand, you deal with, let's say, people younger than me, but who are just looking for kind of being a little more fit, but have no particular, disabilities or difficulties or problems. They just want to be more fit. Then you have other younger people like, other people younger than me who do have issues. Then you're dealing with pro athletes, and then you're dealing with collegiate athletes who are, younger in their stages of development. How do you train them differently? I mean, what goes into, for example, training a professional athlete versus a collegiate athlete versus just a regular old person who's looking to be more fit?
Yeah, so obviously, dependent on what their goals are or what type of functionality they're trying to get, I'll be able to help them. And really, it's getting down to the assessment. And I met this crazy guy named Pete Bomarito. He works with Odell Beckham, Cheetah, Tyreek Hill. And I met him at a conference, and he was speaking, and he said, older individuals, younger individuals, and professional individuals, we actually train them all the same. And, with my client population and demographic, I said, you know what, this crazy guy is right. It's all about movement efficiency and getting them to move a little bit better. So that's where the human and sports performance comes in. But really, it's all about the assessment. So, with you, when I assessed you, obviously I looked at your posture, your body position, how you move. And really, we didn't really fix you until I saw you move through the exercises, making sure that you were aligned right, making sure the body position. But that assessment right there kind of gives me a starting point. And then depending if that athlete wants speed or with you, you wanted performance, you wanted to be able to walk. Going back to the famous Steve LeMay, he wanted to run marathons, half marathons, and 10Ks, 5Ks. Based off that assessment, I'm able to progress them or regress them and get them moving optimally. But it really just comes down to movement efficiency, and it's all what we call the CNS, the central nervous system, on how you learn. So how you learn and how the athletes learn, collegiate or professional, is the same. It is the same. And it's like when a pro athlete gets injured, I have to teach them how to move efficiently again, or they'll get re-injured. The same thing is with a youth athlete or an older athlete. I'm teaching them the proper ways how to move efficiently.
So let's say you're training an older, an athlete, just a professional athlete. I think you're frozen.
Yeah, I think he kind of froze up.
Yeah.
There.
Yeah, you did. Oh, you're back. You're back.
Where did I lose you at?
No, that's okay.
So you were just finished.
You were finished. I'm
just finishing up.
I'm gonna. Yeah.
Okay. So.
Okay.
Yeah. So we talked about I think hopefully by the time this airs, the fight will be over. But I'm from Pensacola, Florida, and I just started training Roy Jones.
It's airing. Just so you know, it's airing now.
Oh, it's airing now. Okay. So
it's live.
This is live right here.
Yeah. So some of his videos just leaked, so I'm okay with talking about this. So I started working with Roy Jones Jr. and my colleagues straight from the beginning, they were saying, "Oh my gosh, he's the Michael Jordan of boxing. What are you going to do?" And they were talking about all these advanced exercises. And I said, you know what? I really don't know what I'm going to do with him yet until I see what his goals are. But I needed to look at his movement efficiency. And so everyone remembers, when he was in his prime, the crazy workouts. And that's what Roy told me. He said, man, I did too much volume. I trained too hard. And now his goal shifted. I've got to get him in the ring healthy. And, after the assessment, I said, I've got to limit spinal flexion. I have to do some anti-rotational exercises. We got to be able to use that big toe extension so you can throw that left hook that he's known for. And that's what I broke down in the movement assessment. And it's just an assessment. It's not a diagnostic test or anything like that. It's just to measure his movement quality so I can see where I could help them. So when I met with him and his manager, I said, look, I'm not going to reinvent the wheel. I'm just going to fill in the gaps of what Roy needs. And that really stood out. And they said, man, let's give this guy a week and see what he can do. And, I didn't push him. He had been through COVID protocols. And, I think the two months kind of helped both fighters out. I can confidently say that, got them in better shape. Roy was just on Joe Rogan, and he thought he was going to fight Mike on 6 weeks notice. And, now it's probably going to be about 16 or 20 weeks notice. So they're able to prepare, but I think that helps them both out, helps them get ready. It is an 8-round exhibition match, but I think they will both be healthier going in. But going back to answering the question about the pro athletes, once again, that assessment is very important. It's actually the same assessment I did with you, Paul. So you and Roy had the same foundations of the movement assessment, but obviously, he's got a few more titles under his belt than yourself. But you are the godfather. You are the godfather of CRM. He's the godfather of boxing. So,
all right.
I will point that out.
I'll challenge him to a debate on CRM
then. I'm sure he challenged you to a fight.
I know, and forget that. I won't accept. I'm not an idiot.
Just out of curiosity, I mean, who are some of the other folks that maybe people may have heard of that you've trained?
I've worked with a lot of college guys. I got a lot of Division I guys. Pensacola, it is very small. So I've worked with Joe Durant, who's on the PGA Tour. I've had Bubba's schedule. I haven't had a chance to work out Bubba yet, but we'll line up here pretty soon. But Jeremy Reeves, that plays in the NFC East for Washington football team. He spent his COVID and his off season here. Just kind of a good mix of guys. Going back to the assessment, I can really help guys in multiple sports and all walks. But those are notable. I've been able to our physical therapist here. He's worked with Todd Gurley when he tore his ACL. Yes. Terrell Thomas, former New York Giant. But we get guys that kind of come and go, and I always say it's all about the athlete, how we could help them and fill the gaps of what they need. And I really like it about them rather than what you usually see from trainers is they say, hey, this guy got great because of me. No, that's not necessarily true. They're already they have God-given talent. We just get them in better positions, better from a conditioning standpoint or a strength standpoint for them to succeed a little bit more. But, for me to go and say, I help this individual, drive the ball 300 plus yards is just ridiculous. Mm-hmm. Or Roy throw his left hook is ridiculous as well. But I'm happy to help those guys out.
Has he ever thrown a left hook at you?
Oh man. So no, but he's thrown the medicine ball near, and after the first 2 weeks of conditioning, he had some confidence, and I had to do some ball slams, and he said, you know what, Lorenzo, in this sport, you're going to get hit. So I want you to slam this 12-pound ball into my abdomen. So I was just over the top of him and said, slam it as hard as you can. And he looks good. I like his speeds, obviously not where it was in his prime, but man, he is still quick. I was able to see him hit the mitts with his trainer, Big Al. Man, it is still lightning quick. So I'm excited about the fight, and it's going to be great for the sport of boxing as well.
How old is he now? Get out of the way.
51.
Oh my
Jesus.
gosh.
Yeah, and Tyson will be 54.
Yeah. Oh, Tyson's 54.
Yeah.
Well, I know Tyson's beard is gray.
Yeah, so he'll be coming in about 220, 225 coming into the fight. Roy wants to come in at 200 pounds.
200.
Yeah, wow. 200.
Well, he was a natural light heavyweight. He wasn't a heavyweight.
Yeah, I think when he fought John Ruiz, he was about 200, 205, and he feels comfy at that weight. He feels like he could still maintain his speed, his hand speed at that weight.
So if you're looking at so you've worked with people in golf, you worked with people in boxing, you worked with people in football. If you're looking kind of across the spectrum of those people, is there something that you see more frequently than not as an issue that you have to help them with? A single one or two.
You know, the main thing is, you know, when I speak about posture and body position, it's just how they position their spine as their pelvis moves. That's one thing. You know, the long grind of sports or just improper training or getting hurt, they lose that awareness. So their awareness in space. So a lot of guys are focused on guys moving weight, but if you look at sport, they're moving in space. So if I give them awareness, I give them better body position, it gives them more opportunity to succeed. So that's one thing that I've seen is their awareness and what type of alignment they're in, because they're strong, they're quick, but you know, if I can get them in a better body position, I like their chances a lot better than, you know, the next athlete.
Are there like, let's say if you're training someone in football, you're working with someone in football versus working with some like who's the golfer you said you work with? Durant. Right?
Joe Durant, yeah.
Joe Durant, right. If you're working with Joe Durant, let's say, versus working with, you know, well, I don't want to use Roy Jones because he's not in the prime of his career, but let's say when Terrell Thomas was in the prime of his career or whoever.
Yeah, or I'm working with some, you know, D1 guys for Florida State, you know, Jacob Copeland with Florida, Miami Hurricanes, Michael Redding. So a lot of guys, so the big thing is really working force production. So what I mean about force production, it's the foot getting into the turf or into the grass. If my athlete can get more horizontal force production, I like their chances of outrunning or running through someone a little bit better. So a lot of the athletes are coached knees up, you know, get the hip flexors up. But if you look at physics, you've got to be able to plant that foot down, be in a stable position to generate force. And usually when athletes are coming to me, they're not taught that. And so you'll see here in a little bit, I'll walk out there to the gym area. You'll see I've got 30 yards of turf. So that's where I give the athletes advantage to give them the acceleration or get them max velocity, which is absolute speed, to where they can run by or, you know, they could generate force and go through somebody.
Do you ever constrain them? Like, in other words, let's say, like all of a sudden you notice, well, actually they're doing the exercise perfectly right, but they're actually generating a little too much force given whatever. Does that ever happen?
Yeah, so that's where the art of coaching comes in. I had an athlete in here he had a lot of force production, but I opened him up a little bit so he can cover more ground. So that's just really, you know, the coach's eye where you could see them and really match them up with the right drill that they need. So sometimes if I have like a small group, I'll break them up a little bit. But, you know, like I said, you want to get some good foundations. You want to get good alignment from the beginning, or it's hard to get them in those drills and align properly to, you know, to get that force production.
Isn't a buddy of yours the new Yankees coach, strength coach, I think?
Yeah. So, you know, the Yankees, not this year, but last year, I think they had a record of 30 plus guys on the DL.
39.
Yes. Wow. Yes. And a guy that I've learned from and I've met at multiple conferences, his name is Eric Cressy. He's actually out of Massachusetts. So the evil empire, they struck again, and they got Eric Cressy. He's got a facility in Massachusetts and Jupiter, Florida, but he's a guy that I learned a lot from with his online resources and just seeing at conferences. I'm a big part of the Speed and Power Summit, so I've seen him up there speak in Athletes Acceleration. But they hired him as, they kind of created a own title, Director of Sports, Personnel. And his main job, it's something to that nature. It's a title I've never heard before. And his main job is to keep the guys healthy. And, you know, these guys are making millions of dollars, and those guys couldn't see the field. You know, every time you turn around with the Yankees, they had someone on the DL. And I believe when they got Giancarlo Stanton last year, you know, he had some of the injury bugs. And was it Bird that plays first base for them?
No,
was it Bird?
Bird's long gone.
Bird's long gone. Okay.
Yeah. Luke Voigt. Bird was always, reason he's gone is because he was continually injured.
Yeah. So, I think that was one of the reasons why they got him. But that's kind of, the background and strength conditioning background that I come from. But like I said, it's really, we're movement guys. We have movement principles and mental maps, road maps that we like to use, to get them positioned and really in real time. I just had an athlete in here, one of the better basketball players here in this area. And, he could run, jump, but he just was not lined up. And once we did it through a series of drills, he was jumping out of the frame of my camera. I said, "You're now jumping out of, because I like to take video. I like to break down the frames, especially when we're looking at acceleration and max velocity, just to make sure they're getting the right angle. So I like to look at toe off, the last position where their toe is before they leave the ground. Then I can offer some drills based on what I see there as well."
How long have you been doing this? How long have you been a trainer?
I've been a trainer for maybe a little bit over 13 years. So I was in the commercial setting, and right before COVID, I decided to make the leap and open up a 10,000 square foot facility training center. Every time I make a business move or something crazy happens. So when I became a personal trainer, we had the recession, and then I made my own move in the private sector, and then we had this pandemic. So a lot of my friends or some of my clients, they said, "Next time you make a move, let me know before." So I can make some moves I can take some of my stocks out. So my stocks don't
right.
crash.
Go to our panic rooms and bomb shelters.
Yeah.
So what's been the biggest challenge, during the pandemic, working with your folks? It's had to add, make a difference here.
Yeah. So, I did some remote coaching, and, I saw some challenges with that. We saw one there with Paul, just alignment and body position. But I just love the interpersonal relationships that I make with my athletes. So we did some things outside in the parks, and, you're limited of what you have out there. But when I started getting back into training and seeing my athletes and seeing my clientele, they were just happy just to see me because, it was a sense of normalcy. They really wanted to chat and see how I was doing. And, I was checking to see how they were doing first and foremost. But I do work with some medicinal clients, arthritic clients, and they really needed to move. And so I was so happy to see them, but a couple of them were limping to me because they were hurting so bad. So we got them moving. But movement's such a therapeutic, relief for the body. I feel like if you're moving correctly and your movement efficiency is really good, you get recovered. And you look at athletes, you look at military personnel, they don't recover enough. Me and Paul, we work crazy hours, so we don't recover as well. So if we move well through a workout, we're not only getting stronger, but it actually speeds up our recovery as well. We're able to lubricate the joints, release endorphins, all the good things that go along with it. You release, tight muscles, or, if you have some aches and pains, it can be very therapeutic just moving correctly.
Well, one thing that you taught me really a great deal on is that. And actually the other thing, which was, because, a lot of times when I've gone to gyms and worked, I've had in the past, one time I hired this personal trainer when I was in my 50s. I hired this personal trainer who I was kind of almost sight unseen, which was definitely a big mistake. But so I hired this guy, and he comes to I had equipment in the room I'm using right now, used to be years ago my quote gym, right? But the guy comes in and his body is like distorted. I mean, he's not heavy, but his body's like all weirdly, it's like, when you see the extreme bodybuilder types who really don't look very good, even though they're extreme bodybuilders, they look kind of terrible because there's no body fat. Well, he had some body fat, but he looked like one of those. And it was just absolutely horrific. And made me so queasy about using the guy. Right. I didn't, because I remember thinking, I don't want to look like that. Right. That would be horrible. And he was like a frantic sort of person. So then so that effectively was my last personal trainer until you. So, but you know, aside from trusting you pretty much the minute I met you, you did something that which really struck me interestingly right after I pinched a nerve in my back, which is now close to 2 months ago. Because, you know, my orthopedic surgeon, who's the guy, orthopedic doctor, a guy I actually have gone to for years and who I like a great deal too, and it's been very helpful. When I went there, he's the one who said it was, you know, pinched nerve and lower back. He said, I said, what do I do? And he said, well, you know, do some stretches and do this and that and the other thing. But I didn't know what to really think about that. So when I mentioned it to you, I remember what you told me, and if I was dealing with this other guy, he would have probably told me to lift 400 pounds, you know. But
like,
you told me,
right?
Then you won't have low back because you'll be dead from trying to lift 400 pounds, right? Right. So you told me, no, don't do stretches. First, you said it was this is a slippery slope, these kind of problems, and that was your words. And then I said, well, what do I do? And you said, which struck me really interestingly, use the massage gun. Heat, ice, not walk, not stretch, not, you know, do now the things like side bridges and all these other. Massage gun, heat, ice, nothing else. And then you also told me something else, which really caught my attention. And it also gave me an understanding of how you train people too, which you said, when you use the massage gun, however, I don't want you to use it on the point where your lower back hurts. I want you to use it on trigger points. Meaning the thing that ultimately the places where effectively, you know, it's gonna start it, but you won't feel the pain there overtly. And then you said to me, and this may surprise you, but you're probably gonna feel more pain on your left side, on the trigger points on your left than on your right. And I was thinking, well, okay, but I doubt it. And you know, Yvonne, my wife, did the massaging because you also told me don't twist to try to do the massage because that alone is going to hurt you.
Yeah. Right.
So Yvonne does it, and damn if I wasn't feeling all the pain on the left. Right. It was like killing me actually for a few weeks. But it wasn't the kind of macho approach, which would be stretch, exercise, lift. Yeah. It was more here's the things that will begin to solve the problem, and then from there we can move accordingly. Meaning you had kind of the long view, and then you recommended that book, which I still think is the best medical-ish book I've ever read in my life, which is the Back Mechanic book by that guy, Dr. Schiller.
Yeah, Stu McGill. Yeah, best mustache in the business.
Right. Yeah.
No offense, Brent, but he's got a better mustache than you, so.
I can live with that.
You gotta, this book, by the way, anyone who has any back, you don't even have to have a back problem, to be honest. If you just wanted to learn how to walk right, basically, you should literally read this book. And it's readable by actual people as opposed to medical professionals and experts in anatomy. So that caught me, that your approach was so thoughtful. And of course, the way you've been describing the way you've worked with the athletes, it's very similar to that. So I guess sort of the next phase, which maybe would be a good time. Would be a good time to maybe, if you want to take us around a little bit and show us.
Sure, of course.
That'd be great, because I think it would be useful for people to see effectively how you train people. And again, if given you're training, you know, Roy Jones, Terrell Thomas, all these other people, Joe Durant, and effectively Steve LeMay on the same equipment, you know, so to speak, and in the same gym, it would be I think it would be useful for people to see what you do and how you do it.
Let me ask my trainers to turn the music down because it does get loud in there. Let me see. I'm just gonna send them a.
Brent's a DJ, so he.
Let's see here. Oh, I can't get connected to send a text message. Oh, but Terrell Thomas, our physical therapist, we have a licensed physical therapist. He's a DPT. He practiced here. He worked with Terrell Thomas and Todd Gurley.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, we're actually about 15 minutes away from the Andrews Institute, the famous Jim Andrews Institute here in Gulf Breeze, Florida. So
ACL Central.
Yeah, can you mute me just for a little bit so I can get out to the training center?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah.
We got you muted, so just let us know. Give us a sign that you're ready to come back to us.
Yeah, yeah, it's fascinating. It is fascinating if you think about it, because it's not what you necessarily would have thought the way you would train a Roy Jones, right? Which would be, I mean, if I was just doing it ad hoc and hadn't talked to Lorenzo, I would have thought he would be training him strength training, basically, and pure fitness. But he's really training for movement and position, and I mean that's a whole other level of training.
Yeah. Give us a thumbs up when you're ready for us to unmute you.
This thing. I think it's because the music's really loud.
Yeah, well, you know, when you're working out, you need that loud music to keep you.
Well, there's a dead body. There's a dead body there.
Are you ready? Okay.
Yeah.
You guys see that area right there?
Yeah.
We got some big ass fans.
Yeah, that's actually their name. The company's called Big Ass Fans. I have a fan like that in my bedroom.
We got one of our coaches stretching here. I spent a lot of time here on the table. You can see the famous massage gun there that Paul likes. Let's see. Yeah, we just really just started decorating here. Things are open now. There's Terrell Thomas. Like I said, our PT worked with him. Todd Gurley. But I set this table up so you can see. We got some rigs back there, but we actually use this open space the most right here. Believe it or not, just open space and get people moving, cutting, and just getting that awareness in space. You know, we do lift weights. Obviously, we've got a lot of barbells, trap bar deadlifts. Yeah, let me just kind of walk you guys around here. This is the area where our physical therapist practices right here. He's a concierge sports physical therapist.
What is that? A concierge?
Yeah, so he's he's not he doesn't take a medical. There's a belt squat, so that's actually a squat where there's no spinal load. I don't know if you can see that. It's a nice device. So it belts right underneath you, and the resistance is not on your spine. It is underneath you. So you actually get some stretch length.
Totally different approach.
And there's some racks. Yeah, some more jerseys on the wall. Dominique Hickson, another New York Giant.
I remember.
He won a Super Bowl. Fred Robbins actually was training here before COVID, but he's going to wait till it gets a little bit better to come back. He was a defensive tackle. Do you remember him, Brent?
Yeah.
So he was part of that best defensive line. I don't know if you remember, they were the Ballin'. They always had that music playing, Ballin'.
Yeah.
Right hand.
Yeah, with O.C. Umenyiora and the boys. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Justin Tuck.
Yeah, it's cool because before, when he was training here, Strahan would send him some text messages. So it was kind of cool to see those. But it's all right. They're kicking me out. They want some music going on. So
yeah, you gotta have the music when you're pumping it up. You know, I understand that.
Let's see here. We got some stuff on the wall here. Golf bag. I got one of Paul was upset when I told him I was a Patriots fan because we lived in Newport, Rhode Island for a while. But there's Terrence Brooks. He lives in Niceville, Florida, which is
Niceville.
Yeah, it's probably about 45 minutes away.
Nice.
Yeah, he plays safety right now for the New England Patriots.
No, I know. I'm kind of laughing at the contradiction in terms. A Patriot living in a town called Niceville.
I just hope Bob Fagel has already moved on to something else by this time, because another Patriot fan on the show is just. But you're a good guy, so we're all right.
Thanks.
Oh, that's right. That's you're lucky you've caught him on his Patriots exceptions day.
Yeah,
one day he's forgiving Patriots.
I heard it when I first got on. I was like, whoa.
You caught him on the best day ever for the Patriots fans to be on. Bob. That's Bob thanking you, Lorenzo, because he's our resident Patriots fan in the CRM community.
Awesome.
So, all right. So I actually do have one sort of, because we're coming close to wrap up, but one last question for you. Okay, so you're training in a very it's not unusual, but it's a different way, right? And for example, I mean, you made a note that you're literally talking to people about how to plant their foot as part of training, right? For force, right? And so when you've got let's say a candidate that's the question, that particular thing is the question. Are you looking ahead to, and let's say you have two candidates, one of them's me and the other one's a pro athlete. Now, needless to say, my reason for having to do that, whatever the hell it would possibly be, is not the same as that pro athlete's. I'm not about to plant my foot to drive my shoulder into somebody's gut or to throw a ball, right? I'm pretty much going to plant my foot so I can stand up, right? So how do you train them, even though it's the same thing? You're bound to train them somewhat differently because the outcome is going to be different. What the outcome is for, the goal is going to be somewhat different. How do you distinguish that? How do you distinguish same thing, different objectives? Yeah,
so just where we put the load, the weight, the resistance, the main thing I say is we need to, and this I tell this to athletes, middle school all the way to professional, we have to raise the threshold. So I need to get your foot, I need to get your hip, I need to get your back ready to generate that force. And a lot of times what you see with injuries is that their body is not ready yet. And so I'll use some constraints, we'll use some sleds. I'm really big on horizontal loading. And what you see in a normal commercial gym is you see everything's vertical. They go up and down, and actually a lot of it, if it's not functional, it can cause injury because you're just repeating the same bad movement over and over, and it's not really functional for what their needs are. So one of our performance specialists right down the road here at Exos, he was saying it's like taking your hand and just rubbing it into the turf. You're going to get bloody, you're going to bleed, but you're going to overdo it. And so a lot of the times is we give the athletes the best exercises so we don't wear their joints out. We get them ready to play. I always say it's better to get them, 90% performance, 100% healthy. And so to answer your question, the load is a lot more variable. The constraints are a little bit different, but that's probably the main difference. Just enough resistance to make the changes. So like for you, we're going to strengthen the same portion of your foot so you can do your 2-mile walk. But, I'm not going to have you pushing a 400-pound sled or dragging a sled or, working the forefoot, with 200 plus pounds or 300 plus pounds. But yeah, that would be the biggest difference. But, we came in at age, like even myself, I'm 37. If anyone's wondering how old I am, because I do look 23. I still get carded though, it's a compliment. But we were always told in high school and college that we need to get stronger. And so when I started working with athletes, I actually worked out with athletes on the back end. So local hospitals or even Andrews Institute, after they were done PT, they got released to me. So I was kind of in that reactive stage, but their coach would always tell them, hey, get stronger. And I met this D1 guy. He was already squatting 615 pounds. And his coach was like, you got to get stronger. You're going to keep getting hurt. And so let's try 650. And I told him, I said, man, God. I said, you're already strong. We just got to get you moving efficiently. And so I had him doing a split squat with a safety squat bar. We call it a sports safety bar squat. And we were just using 135 pounds. And he said that was the hardest squat because I got him positioned in the right body position and what his need was to get the weight onto his foot. So when I did that analysis, I said, man, you're strong, but your weight, your weight's on your heels and your pelvis has to tilt anteriorly. And then you have to have excessive lumbar lordosis. And so he was just all over the place and you just could not be in the right position to run effectively over time. And it was someone that kept getting hurt. And since he's been back, he has not gotten hurt. And it's fun because he sent me last year. He sent me a pick 6, and it was just fun to see. And he got those max velocity angles when he was taking it to the house. So it was kind of fun to see.
Cool.
You know what? Yeah. Maybe you could work with Daniel Jones so that he can run more than like 30 yards without tripping over his own feet and falling.
Or actually, you know what? I don't even worry about that one because he was hitting 21.23 miles an hour when he did that, right? Which they actually you need to work with him on his fingers so he knows how to hold on to a ball without dropping it for more than a game. Yeah, well, not even more than a game. He does it every game.
Yeah,
him and Evan Ingram.
Yeah, it's funny. An old colleague sent me that video because he asked me to break down the Saquon ACL injury. But I'll get to Saquon here in a second. But when I was watching Daniel Jones run, he did get some good max velocity, but he doesn't do the drills enough. So he's not used his hip flexor. He's not used to pulling the big toe up. So they do more acceleration if they're lucky. Joe Burrow, though, by the way, he does some max velocity. Joe Burrow would have taken that to the house easily, but Daniel Jones could not pick up his feet enough, and he just wasn't conditioned to do so. So he just tripped over his feet. If you watch the video, like his hip flexor was getting lower and lower and lower, and so his toe had, it started scraping the turf or the grass or whatever that they use there. But it was kind of funny to break it down. I was like, oh man, I said, I know if I was training him, I would have done some max velocity work with him because it does help your acceleration from a neural adaptation standpoint. But Joe Burrow would have definitely taken. And I'm not a Joe Burrow fan, but I know what drills that they're doing and then what they're not doing as well. So if Daniel Jones is listening, he needs to do some max velocity work and run over what's called wickets. Yeah, so they know the drill. Yeah. Wickets.
All right, actually, now we do have to get this last piece in. You said you'll go over it in a minute when you said the Saquon Barkley ACL injury.
Yeah. So I broke that down. We knew the NFL was going to sustain some injuries, on shortened preparation. And so, for me as a strength conditioning specialist, I'm looking at, is it warranted or did they not prepare? And, getting to, was it Nick Bosa with the 49ers? He couldn't avoid that. That was an acute trauma. But with Saquon, I don't know if I broke this down with you, but I broke it down for another Giants fan. I think I was talking to Fred Robbins, but he was running to the outside, and there are 3 mechanisms that need to happen to have an ACL tear. You have to have some deceleration, internal rotation of the knee and the hip, and also rotation. So you have to look at those 3 things. And with Saquon running to the outside, he was doing some external rotation and what's called abduction, where you're kind of getting away from the body. When that guy jumped on his back, when he planted, the knee went what they call valgus. And, that's a neural response, and that's what his body was used to doing. So if he was doing like a single leg hop, his knee would come in a little bit. And so sometimes those things are overlooked because they don't really look at landing. But what happens sometimes if you're doing something incorrectly, how the body learns good movement, it'll learn bad movement as well. So there's no doubt if he were to just, in his training, and if he did what's called a depth jump or where they're landing, I've seen this with athletes over and over again, you would see a little valgus. And so that gave him the ability to get that internal rotation with rotation. And, you never want to see those things happen, but breaking it down from video standpoint, looking at the frames, I would bet that could have been avoided. I'm sure some strength coaches or some movement experts as well. It's unfortunate, but he's a strong guy. I mean, if you look at back when he was at Penn State, gosh, he was squatting over 600. But I saw this with RG3 when RG3 was in the combine. He was actually down here in Gulf Breeze. I didn't work with him. I was not working at Athletes Performance. And when you saw it in his triple jump or his broad jump, when he would land, his knees would cave in. And so from a movement standpoint, that's just something that you could look at. So what was that message that says skiers do that all the time with the ski racers I work with do that all the time with the knees caving in.
I guess they blow out the ACL judging.
Oh, okay. Prior. Sure. Yeah, sure. So, they're in that, they're going knees over toes skiing, which is okay. I'm good with, because, that's running and that's acceleration. But a lot of the time it could be a muscle imbalance. But going back to that movement screen that we did, or what I do, the overhead squat assessment, which I learned from a guy in Manhattan named Brent Brookbush. I'll give him a plug. He created the NASM corrective exercise specialist, but I would say he probably made that popular. Brent Brookbush did, but you could see that knee valgus, and it's good to notice an assessment. But what are the solutions? What exercise do you need to fix that? Anyone could point out something, but how are you as an exercise programmer going to program the exercises that are going to be unique to help that individual? That's the hardest part. That takes a lot of mistakes, obviously, a lot of experiences. But going back to what I like to say, the art of coaching, and that's with you, Paul. I had those mental maps, and I've seen all those failures and frustrations, so I already knew what to do. So
yeah, it's easy. So
yeah,
listen, if anyone is interested in contacting Lorenzo, I'll tell you what, go through me. I'll get you to him. That'll make it easier, so you don't have to get bugged. I will get you to Lorenzo immediately, but you should contact this guy. He's brilliant. And with that, thank you, sir. You were awesome.
That was fun.
It really
it's good to kind of step out from training and working with coaches, but I love doing this stuff. You said that I had the voice to do it, so you gave me the belief in myself, and that's what I say for these athletes. If I give them belief in the confidence, then I've done my job.
Amen,
at
brother.
the end of the day. Yep, it's all about them.
Thanks
all right, take care, guys.
Taking us on
all
the
right,
tour,
Lorenzo. That
all
was
right,
awesome.
Brent, it's good to
all
see
right.
you. All right, Paul.
Take care,
we'll see you soon. Okay.
Take care.
Take care.
Yep, shortly. Bye.
Bye.
All right. Well, another end to another week, and that was a cool end to the week.
Yeah, it really was. It's so just different than our usual too. It's really interesting. You see the science in that thing, though. I mean, it's amazing. The level is just staggering.
It makes sense, because of all the money that's at stake for a lot of these guys. It's this is
well. I'll tell you what. This guy, I'm not joking. He's actually, this guy's been a blessing for me. He's really helped me a lot. And if there are people look, remote personal trainer is kind of what's happening right now. It's become a significant part of a lot of people's business. And I really do highly recommend that you use Lorenzo.
And on that note, folks, it's into another week. Wow.
Yes. Yeah, I know. And guess what? We'll be doing it again next week.
So take some time off, enjoy what I hope will be great weather, because it's been great weather all week down here. So I'm looking forward to going out in my backyard, at least, where there's nobody around me, so I can actually breathe it, air without having to worry about anything. But on that note, I'm Brent Leary.
I'm Paul Greenberg.
We are the CRM Players, and we will see you next week.